Hey, Christine, can you hear me okay? I see you're muted. You're on early, which is a good thing. Can't hear you, Christine. Are you there? Hmm, not sure my microphone works. Oh, that's too bad. This is going to be interactive. If there's a way that you can get your mic working. Hey, do you have a webcam? Oh, listen, I put on my best shirt. Come on, the least you can do is throw your webcam on. So listen, it's gonna. I don't know if you participated in the previous ones. They were more kind of a one way with some chat, but this one we've got a smaller group, and we're hoping that we can make this as interactive as possible and kind of see each other and that sort of thing. So hey, look, the good news is we've got time before we're going to start. So I'm sure you don't have a whole lot to do to make yourself all presentable and everything. So anyway, just consider that one. I'm going to grab some water and we'll get started in about 15 minutes or so, I guess. So if you're there, what company are you with? MBS, gotcha. Pretty familiar with the radio industry. We train a lot of people in that industry, and you're dealing with a few cancels here and there, that's for sure. How are you doing? Yeah. Yeah, I don't think there's too many industries that are immune to what's going on. Maybe the cleaning industry. I got a couple of buddies that own commercial cleaning companies, and they can't even keep up right now. Of course, they're flat out.
Hello, hello.
Oops, sorry, Mark, I was on mute there.
Yeah, I know. I was just going to type you a message.
Oh, okay. Can you throw your webcam on in a webinar?
I can't unless you let me. Oh, there we go.
There you go. Oh, you're in the office.
Yeah.
Okay. Christine's on from MBS Radio. Mark, when I move this chat box around, do you see that or no?
I don't.
You don't, okay. I think the only difference between a webinar and a meeting is breakout rooms. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So this is a webinar. I think we had 24 registered.
That's excellent.
Tell me if you get this chat, Mark.
Yes, I did.
And so you're able to make that adjustment on your end, right? All panelists and attendees.
Yeah, I have to basically do the drop down and select. It defaults to all panelists.
Right.
What you need to do is do the drop down where it says two and select all panelists and attendees.
Okay.
And then everybody can see your chat. That's it.
Oop. Uh,
Back.
Morning.
hey, good morning.
How you doing, Mr. Fry?
I'm doing very well, Mr. Kehoe.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
Can you turn on your webcam so we can see your smiling face?
Is it on?
Well, I'm not seeing it. And for those that can see and hear me, yeah, we're going to make this as interactive as possible, gang. So
Okay, am I there? No?
not yet. So if you wouldn't mind turning your webcams on and unmuting yourselves, that would be awesome. And if things get unruly, we can switch it up then. Here we got 2 webcams on.
You got me now?
Don't have it yet, Terry, for some reason.
Hmm. Well, it's
I know in Zoom, you can either be set up in a webinar or a
yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
webinar or a meeting. In a meeting, I know it's pretty straightforward. Maybe with a webinar, you can't turn your webcam on. I'm not sure. I thought
No,
you,
I just adjusted my settings. So let me see. Okay, let me try all this now.
I mean, it's not going to make or break it. It just would be great to kind of see everyone. Mark, maybe you were able to turn yours on because you're a panelist or a co-host.
Well, also, when you set up the meeting, you establish whether people are allowed to
Oh.
turn on their video and or audio.
All right.
Hmm.
All right.
Strangely enough, it says that it's on, so. Really?
Yeah, that's all right. It's well, we can go like this.
You look good.
Morning, guys.
Hey, Kurt, how are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. I can't, it won't let me turn my video on for some reason.
Yeah, we're discovering that. It may have been the settings that I sent out for the webinar. Maybe I didn't click on, you can turn your webcam on. So
Yeah. Let me see.
anyway, that's all right.
Can you hear me?
Well, loud and clear.
Cool.
Yeah, we use Zoom like multiple times a day now with clients and internal meetings, but we've only been using the webinar feature for larger meetings like this. And I think that, yeah, it's a bit of a different setup by the looks of it. But anyways, as long as you guys can see the content and hear us, so Mark and I and Curtis are going to kind of co-host this whole thing. So we'll get a few more people joining us here. So we'll just wait for another couple of minutes. Clifton, I can see a picture of you, assuming that's you. I don't know if you're able to unmute and just make sure we can hear you okay. Daryl, looks like you're unmuted. Can we hear you?
Good morning.
Hey. And Corey, looks like you're muted. Can you hear us okay? And can we hear you?
I can hear you perfectly, Eric.
All right. God, Corey, I wish I could see your smiling face, but I don't know, man.
Oh, you're making me blush.
I can't tell.
You can wish him a happy birthday there, Eric.
No way. Are you like 30 already?
Yeah, 29 again.
29 again. Happy birthday, man.
I get to
You've been out
spend the morning with you.
Oh, you're welcome.
And with this no video enacted, you can't tell that I'm having a beer.
No, well,
Jeez,
No,
it
just joking.
should be a
Too early.
Caesar this time of day.
Sounds like a bromance here.
Yeah. All right. Got some more folks joining. And I think everybody is able to talk. We get a note from Christine that her webcam or her microphone isn't working. But yeah, so just as we get going here, gang, more people joining. This one's going to be a little bit different than the other ones that you may have attended, which was more of kind of a webinar, because you can imagine when we're asking people to talk when there's 100 people on, it would just be it'd be a mess. So we've got, this is a smaller group. So far we've got 15. I think we had about 20 or 24 registered. So we'll just wait for another few minutes. So this is going to be interactive. I've got a few guiding slides to kind of give you a sense of, what we're all about and that sort of thing. But this is more for you folks to share with us in the group, some of the challenges that you might be experiencing, especially in today's environment. And then today it's going to be, well, look, here's a little bit about us. This isn't a big sales pitch, but what this is, you guys invested time and resources and that sort of thing in attending our free sessions, which is great. Thank you for that. But we figured the least we can do is at least give you a sense of who we are and what we do, and a little bit about one of our programs to kind of determine if, hey, something like this might make sense for any of you on the line. So it's kind of a two-pronged approach, a share of some of the challenges that you folks are experiencing, and maybe get to know each other, even do a little bit of virtual networking, and then a little bit about how we have helped specific clients overcome some of these challenges that you're going to be sharing. All right, what's on? 10:03. So let's get started. I'll get a hard stop at just before 11. So that'll give us enough time. But again, welcome. Thanks for coming. Really appreciate it. And I hope you were able to take some value out of the free sessions that we put on just previously. So what are we going to do today? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about some sales traps. Some traps that we can fall into sometimes, even as some tenured salespeople, right? I don't think any of us are immune to falling into some of these things. What can we do about it? To either get out of the traps or even avoid these traps altogether. And then a little bit about what we do and what we offer. A little bit of educational stuff. Many of you, I'm sure, have done maybe a little bit of research on who we are and what we do, but we'll go into a little bit more detail about that. Okay, so, when we think about it, some of you might recognize this graphic. It was a former client that put this together, and we've actually used it on billboards and bus ads and that sort of thing. It's actually got quite a bit of notices from the marketplace, and I believe it kind of sums it up. Are we out there? Are we crossing our fingers and just kind of lobbing stuff over the fence with lots of proposals, and then just kind of hoping for the best? And if that is the case, well, that's maybe one way to approach sales. But our belief is that there's probably a more productive way where we're actually a little bit more in control of what we're doing in the sales process. So let's start off with this. And guys, again, this is intended to be interactive. So I could either ask for a volunteer, or I could just kind of ask somebody to speak to this. Sales is a slight edge business. Does anybody want to chime in and just note that many of you are muted right now? What does this mean to you? Sales is a slight edge business. Anybody want to volunteer as our first volunteer for this session? What's that mean to you folks? Okay, I'm going to pick on somebody, and I'm going to go to, okay, so Matthew Boyle raised your hand. Matthew, are you able to put your mic on or no?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Welcome, Matt. What do you think?
It just means any kind of small differentiator that can differentiate you from the competition that, in a lot of industries, there's a lot of people doing the same or similar things. So a slight edge could be you having a little bit more of a personal relationship with them, or having some kind of quality that the client or potential client gravitates towards.
Yeah, no, that's great. Great answer. Matthew, what business are you in? I know because you're with NEO, but maybe you can just share with the group what business you're
I own the Clever Barkeep, which is a cocktail catering company and a consultation company. So, as you could understand, our business is based on events of usually more than 5 people. So, not a ton of those going on right now. So, we do 50% of our revenues in the event space and 50% in consultation.
Okay, so you've got competitors out there for sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I think everybody on the line probably has some competition. So, you know, when you think about it, our prospects and our clients even, you know, they can look at, let's go with prospects. They look at a quote from you and a quote from 2 or 3 others, and you know, they kind of all look maybe the same. And so, you know, that we've got to figure out ways how we can, and just like Matthew said, how we can differentiate and how we can add that additional slight edge. And that slight edge is us, right? Your products and services are awesome. I get it, but we need to be that slight edge. We need to own that accountability to be different and be seen as different amongst the marketplace. Otherwise, we're just like everybody else, right? And we're slinging quotes and proposals, and sometimes that doesn't go our way. So how do we really move the needle? Well, this is our approach. This is kind of the backdrop to what we do. This is I think I talked about this in one of the open sessions. You know, it's our success triangle, we call it. It's a 3-legged stool, and you know, techniques is one part of it for sure. Right? What questions do I ask? How do I set mutual expectations? You know, how do I dig deeper? How do I build a rapport, you know, using some techniques? How do I become a better listener? All of that kind of stuff, all very important. But in our world, we feel that there's way more to being successful in sales other than just knowing some techniques. I'm a firm believer, everybody knows what they need to do. Everybody knows what to do. I got to get more business. I have to close more sales. I've got to shorten up my sales cycles. Got to get more margin. Got to beat the competitors, right? But it's the how sometimes that gets in the way. And this is our approach. So it really starts with your attitude, clearing out the head trash, understanding what the problem is, you know, between the ears, and maintaining and developing that positive attitude, so that we got a good solid belief system about ourselves and our ability to do this. Because sales isn't the place to get our emotional needs met, for sure. So we got to maintain a good positive attitude. And then we need to do the behaviors, whatever those are. And arguably, those behaviors have changed maybe in the last few weeks, considering what's going on, right? So maybe it's outbound calls, or maybe it's asking for referrals, or maybe it's, you know, more virtual webinars, or more virtual networking events, that sort of thing. So you can see the 3 things here. It's like a 3-legged stool. Because if you have a lousy attitude, but a good behavior plan and some reasonable techniques, you're probably putting yourself behind the 8 ball a little bit. So that being said, this is where we're going to start the interactive part of the process here. Think about it. What is your biggest personal challenge when it comes to sales? Now, let me qualify this a little bit. Economy doesn't, COVID doesn't count. The exchange rate doesn't count. These are all uncontrollables. So what is your biggest personal challenge when it comes to selling in general? Okay, because I think everybody on this call has something they want to improve. Let's start with, I'm just going to pick somebody here. Adam Nemo. Maybe if you could just unmute yourself. What do you think, Adam? What's your biggest personal challenge in sales?
In my current role, I would say that the biggest challenge right now is, you know, getting into clients that are not quote unquote married to another competitor. You know, breaking through that barrier has become is kind of the main challenge that I'll run into on day to day.
So basically trying to unseat your competitor in with certain prospects, opening new doors.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good. Excellent. Thanks, Adam. Jeffrey McDowell. You're unmuted, or you're muted there. So if you could just unmute yourself. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yes, pretty much the same thing with Adam. I would say I run into problems as far as the sale with me developing relationships with customers, and I deal with a lot of customers that have competitors in the same area that I deal with also. So that's kind of tough and challenging.
Okay. All right. Good. Thanks, Jeffrey. Let's go to Clifton Flint. Just a reminder to unmute yourself. There you go.
Well, hi, Eric. It's Cliff here.
Hey.
I don't know if I'm the senior guy on board, but I'm 61 years old and I've been at sales a long, long time. And I feel this is incredibly refreshing. And I do thank you for it. I've jumped on the other 6 seminars to date, or webinars, that is. And an old dog, you can still teach new tricks. And not that they're tricks by any stretch. It's just understanding the process. For me in the industry that I'm in right now, it's seafood processing. And I provide sort of a holistic approach to reducing energy spend within the facilities, whether it be lighting or HVAC systems, or whether they're using flaked ice over slurry. But for me, the challenge is it's sort of an old school, I don't want to say nepotism, but it's old school. And like I think Adam said at the beginning here, I'm just trying to get in there and sort of being the new kid on the block, even though I'm old and I have so much good things so much value to bring. Just getting their attention, and I can get past the gatekeeper, but it's keeping their attention once I'm there. And like you said, a lot of it has to do with listening to and asking the right questions for pain point and things like that. So for me, it's just always looking to improve even after all these years.
Yeah. How's are you tracking for, COVID aside? I mean, what's the one big thing for you, Cliff, as far as, getting better at it?
Well, okay, so just literally getting on the phone, going through my seafood processing list and really just doing an introductory cold call, which then becomes a warm call. But really just the discipline of getting on the phone, blocking time in the day and making those calls.
Yeah, good, excellent. Great, thanks, Cliff. A couple more here. Let's see. Anybody want to volunteer? Two participants raised hands. You know what, guys? I can't tell actually who raised your hand, but if you would like to turn your mic on, just go ahead and speak.
Eric, it's Corey.
Hey, Corey.
As you know, but for other panelists here, we're in the radio business. So
Yeah.
one of the challenges that we face, or our biggest personal challenge, is having our clients spend those dollars on advertising on something they can't see immediate results on sometimes.
So having them trust you to spend their dollars so that it's going to make a difference, Corey, is that what you mean?
Sure, that's a little bit, yep.
Yeah. How do you do that today? How do you convince them?
I mean, we know we can deliver results, but they want immediate results, and sometimes radio takes time.
Okay.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
Well, I come from the print business, so I kind of understand your pain. Basically, a lot of the market is looking for immediate results, but the results are kind of in the analytics world, which is clicks and engagement through likes and whatnot, which is the new game. And people are measuring that as opposed to real results, which is basically increase in sales numbers, et cetera. So differentiating yourself, and I don't have the answer, but differentiating yourself against tools such as analytics becomes a lot more difficult, because basically you know who your demographic is, you know who you're reaching, But because they can't say, well, who, you know, they can't point at it and touch it and say, well, you know, you have your own data banks and that type of stuff that, you know, measures your audience. But if they don't see it and touch it and feel it, that becomes the big issue.
Mm.
You're right, Terry.
So, you know, overcoming that is a challenge. And it's, you know, I look back through my career, I'm sort of an old dog too. You know, there was the 2009 financial crisis. There was a chip away in the print market, and it was like by 2013, the sales kind of fell off a cliff. And from what I understand, radio is sort of in that same type of challenge, right? And that was really the advent of mobile technology. So overcoming that is the big challenge, and getting people to invest in it without seeing the you know, the analytics side of things. Because what we're bringing to the table is we know who's reading us or listening to us, but we can't point at it and say, this is the click-throughs that you got between from, you know, geo targeting, all those wonderful buzzwords that they have in that world. Anyway, it's just my 2 cents worth.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I add something on to Corey's message?
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, kind of a part of what Corey was saying is it's and Terry as well, it's really hard to measure if there's an impact. If a client asks when they have the consumer come in and say, oh, how'd you hear about us? They say, oh, I looked you up online. Well, maybe they were sitting in their truck on the way to home or to the office and heard an ad on the radio and went home and looked it up and then made the call or went in. And when the person asks, you know, how did you hear about us? They say, oh, I looked you up online. They don't say I first heard it on the radio.
Mm.
And that is kind of difficult.
Mhm.
It's like, how do you measure? And that's what I find challenging sometimes.
Yeah, that's very true, right? And you know, there's a saying, if you can't measure it, it's not worth it, right? Or it's not valuable if you can't measure it. But I mean, you know, the fact is, radio and print was working for well 100 years or more, probably, and that all of a sudden that it doesn't work is one of the, you know, challenges.
So measuring the success, Corey, I guess is what you're getting back to, you know, or is it more the convincing them that radio is a good thing, or measuring the success?
It's very much seeing those tangible success results. I mean,
Increase in sales.
obviously, we'll see an increase in sales and things like that, but then you're into a justification that, hey, was it me? Was it print? Was it digital? Was it all the other mediums? Was it just a stranger walking in off the street?
Right.
Those are some of the challenges that I face.
Yeah, yeah. It's tough, you know. I mean, who's kidding who? I mean, people rely on their, you know, their features, their benefits, their products and their services in their sales pitch. And it's interesting that, you know, sometimes that can be successful because we feel as salespeople, and I'm going off on a tangent here, I know, but sometimes as salespeople, we feel we need to tell and convince and, you know, push our product and our service. Let me ask you a question. Whoever wants to chime in. Why is that not always the best approach for success? Does anybody have any insight on that question? Why is pushing features and benefits and products and services and convincing our prospects to buy, why might that be met with a little resistance? Do we think?
Can I chime in here?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, one of the ways to overcome that, and through the you know, the analytics and the click-through numbers and all that type of stuff, is storytelling. And essentially, if you can relate a successful campaign and of someone or a business that's doing business with you for years, and they're getting results through a long-term sustained investment. So basically, it goes to, if you can relate a story from a similar type of business that is successful doing the same type of thing, then it's a way to overcome that.
Hmm. Any other ideas? Yeah, go ahead.
I work with Corey as well, and one of the things, I guess, well, you've done radio advertising, and we're speaking to the choir just about things that testimonials and things like that from other clients is always kind of nice to keep on hand, to be able to kind of relate with certain clients that might say, well, how am I going to track this? How am I going to be able to know that, well, you know what, I don't have a crystal ball, but I can tell you that, Joe's Bicycle Shop last year did our campaign, and he's been doing it for, the past 4 years. And obviously it's working because he's been consistently doing this year after year. And, a couple clients come to mind. So I guess keeping those things maybe on hand is always good to have as well.
Yeah. Why is that a little bit? Why does that resonate a little bit more, Daryl? Do you think than focusing on your stuff?
When you say focusing on your stuff, you mean just like the
Features and benefits.
Yeah, features and benefits, pitching your stuff.
You're relating to, you're trying to use a personal kind of touch. So your business might relate to another person's business. So if it's something that they can see themselves kind of, I don't know, Eric, it's really about keeping that personal touch with the people that kind of can relate with, whether it be their business. Everybody has a product and service that they want to sell, but just make it personal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the more that we can relate stories, it was good news. People like stories, right? And I think people will soak in a little bit more about an example that you've helped with other clients, right? To Corey's point about return on investment and where they should invest and that sort of thing. And you're relating to them. You're relating to their challenge, their curiosity, frankly their objection to why they haven't signed your agreement, right? And people are going to resonate, I think, a little bit more to that versus people don't like to be told what to do, right?
Can I add something here?
Yeah, sure. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I work with Corey and Daryl, actually.
Geez, everybody works with Corey and Daryl.
I think an important thing is you may have all the features and benefits, but if they don't meet with the client's needs, if they don't match up, then you're not going to get success. You've got to convince the client that he needs your product. You could spout off on so many features and benefits, but if the client doesn't see that those meet his needs, he's not going to buy. But if you can show him how you are addressing his needs and you are going to help him, then you should find success in that way.
Yeah. No, it's great point, Karen, for sure.
Paying indicators.
Yeah, there's a former Sandler, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can I jump in here as well? Sorry, can Adam jump in here?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, sorry to interrupt there. I'm just thinking, I've always taken the approach that, think about how I buy. When I walk into a place or I have someone come up to me, I don't like to be pressured. I don't like to be talked at. I like to, tell someone what my problem is and let them, look at my problem and say, okay, well then maybe you need this. going in and saying, you know, I might have this artillery in my hands ready to sell to this person, but I have to be ready to pivot, you know, on a dime and change the solution for this person because it just doesn't fit. So I always try and, you know, it's been brought up kind of having a personal touch to it, but also being aware that a lot of people probably buy the way I do, you know, so I have to be, you know, cognizant of that.
Yeah, yeah. There's a book called The 49 Sandler Rules, and it's also all over the internet too. I mean, if you look on YouTube and you type in Sandler Rules, it's a whole bunch of little like 1-2 minute videos about each of them, and one of them is people like to buy, but they hate being sold to. Right, and that's one that really resonates with me. And Matthew just said a note here. You know, pressure doesn't always work. You know, and it can also give a sense of desperation. Absolutely. You know, think about it when you're buying something and you feel pressured, or you feel like you're being pinned up against literally the wall, and you know, you're getting the big sales pitch and that kind of stuff. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And what I can assure you, because, you know, some of this is an information session around Sandler in this case, that, you know, what we teach is actually very counterintuitive to what a lot of people do in the world of sales. It sounds as though you folks are, you know, some of you got some experience with Sandler, which is good, but it's really, it's a pain-based selling process. And people are a little uncomfortable with that whole thing because, you know, I don't want to talk about pain. I don't want to, you know, make them feel uncomfortable. No, our job is to understand the extent of a client's or a prospect's pain, so that you know, we understand if there's a propensity want to buy. People like to buy, they hate being sold to. Clifton, you want to make a comment?
It just reminds me, thanks, Eric. My wife and I recently were shopping for a vehicle, and we had a certain model of vehicle in mind. It would be an SUV, all-wheel drive, not at the high end of the spectrum, but somewhere in the mid-range. And so we visited a number of dealerships in the area. I think the total was 6, and we looked at all the, you know, the big names. And what happened to me during the process was I got so intrigued with the sales presentation and the process that I was more concerned with how this person was qualifying both of us and how they went through the entire sales process when it was, you know, because let's face it, purchasing a car it's a must-have nowadays for anyone that's in sales, more or less, if you're traveling on the roads and or just getting groceries. But it is somewhat of a necessity and a relatively large ticket item. And so you want to be careful. So you do all your fact checking, you do your research online, you talk to people on the street, at a gas station if you're looking at a particular vehicle. But I just found myself watching how, I guess, rating or critiquing the sales process. And I was very open about it. At times I'd say, okay, at this point, you know, you're going for the pre-close or whatever. Like I would actually call it out. But it was funny that to somebody's point earlier about selling just sort of the boxes without really having the trust in the relationship or the understanding and the needs being met. It was quite an interesting experience, and that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, no, that's good. I love watching people's approach and that sort of thing. And I'll tell you, you know, in our programs, whenever we ask for a nasty experience that, you know, people have had in the whole sales world, the car industry takes a beating, that's for sure. It's nothing against the car industry, but it's, you know, maybe it was, well, I'm dating myself, the old WKRP days. You know what I'm talking about, or Clifton, sorry. So, you know, Herb Tarlick and the jazzy jacket and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, come on. I love Herb.
Yeah. Yeah.
Corey's just like him.
Yeah. But you know what? I mean, we call it sales malpractice. I mean, when was the last time you went to the doctor and, you know, you walked in and they said, "Oh, Darren, thanks, you know, not thanks for coming in, but good to see you. Here's your prescription." Right? I mean, if that happens, I think that's probably cause for some concern because, you know, I mean, a doctor's approach is to ask questions and diagnose. And arguably, you know, we're in a professional industry as well. And that's, you know, without doing that, without asking all those questions, I don't think we're doing ourselves or our prospects any favors, because we're not helping them, that's for sure. We're just focused on ourselves and pushing out our products and services. So, okay, yeah, good conversation, guys. And keep chiming in. But oh yeah, so here are some of the challenges that we see. You know, maybe these resonate with you, maybe that they don't. But you know, I don't have time. I don't have time to prospect for new business. I'm not sure that would really apply this day and age. Although, you know what? I don't know, the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've been flat out. Like I got off my laptop last night, I think about 11 o'clock after doing everything that I needed to do for the day. You know, we often hear that I don't have time to prospect. I'm really busy. You know, maybe I've got lots of quotes out there, but man, like they're just not returning my calls. Or, you know, I'm giving away a lot of stuff. We call it unpaid consulting. You know, I mean, people are saying, yeah, send me a quote. So I go back, and especially in big organizations, maybe where there's team-based selling and that sort of thing. Like we deal with a lot of engineering firms, and, you know, these quotes that they put together are expensive because there's a lot of people involved. But even if it's just you know, I mean, pulling together the information and putting together a quote, it might only take you 5 minutes in some cases. But we're just pushing it out there and crossing our fingers. Maybe the competition is undercutting our rates. You know, there's some wounded bears out there right now. So, you know, people are going to be maybe a little bit desperate and try to undercut your rates. How about the MBS folks? Is this happening today as far as your rates are concerned? Anybody want to comment on that?
It's happened well before COVID.
Is it? Okay. Yeah. So maybe with maybe COVID only exacerbates it. And maybe access to decision makers is more difficult. Here's what I'm experiencing. This is getting easier right now because, well, look, I mean, I'm the owner of the company. I'm sitting in my office. You know, I'm not out doing what I love to do, which is networking and you know, meeting with clients and prospecting and that sort of thing. I'm doing it all right here. So I'm a little easier to get a hold of now, right? So, I would argue that, you know, access to decision makers is still can be difficult, but I believe it's working in our favor right now. Anything else you're seeing, guys, as far as some of the challenges that we're seeing out there? And it can be COVID related, but you know, what's holding us back from being successful? Anybody want to comment?
Yeah,
Michael.
again.
I'm just going to go to Michael first.
Okay.
And then we'll, yeah. Mike, nice to hear from you. What's going on in your world? You just got to unmute yourself, Mike, if you can do that. All right. How do I unmute? That's a good question.
Bottom left corner.
Bottom left corner
Click on your screen.
on your screen, Mike, if you can see that. Unless are you calling in, Mike? Okay, well, Mike, see if we can figure that out. Nope. All right. I'm not sure what to tell you. The bottom left screen is what the guy said here. So, okay. Maybe Mike, you can chat yours in. And sorry, I cut somebody off there earlier. Who'd like to?
Yeah, that was me.
Okay, go ahead.
What I'm finding a lot now is with some of the businesses that have reduced hours and reduced some staff, one of the first budgets they've cut is advertising.
Okay.
Not necessarily the best move for them, but that's the easiest, I think, for them to do. And that makes it very difficult for us.
It does suck, doesn't it, Darren? Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Every downturn that happens.
Yeah. Yeah, they look at non-discretionary spending and all that kind of stuff. I mean, arguably, guys, we're non-discretionary. I spent 2 hours on a webinar last evening, with the CEO and COO of one of our larger clients, and we had that exact same discussion. Eric, I don't know, man, like it's tough times, and why don't we, maybe we should hold off and that sort of thing. And it wasn't 2 hours of discussion or me pitching and convincing. It was a business to business, equal business stature conversation about, what their challenges were, why they considered us in the first place, why they're doing business with us, the problems that it's solving, the problems that they're probably going to be facing. And by the end of it, we're all good, right? So, but I get you, I mean, advertising. If we're selling advertising versus really understanding the pain of not advertising, Darren, it might just kind of start to change the conversation a little bit. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, we're finding some businesses that are still advertising are still afloat,
right?
And have I think a better chance of pulling through, where some of the businesses that don't, they may not be reopening at the end of all this, because no one knows who they are anymore.
Yeah.
Eric,
Yep. Go ahead, Corey.
business owners are scared and not sure what they're going to do in all aspects of their business, not just advertising. They're trying to pay rent. So there's so much pressure on that small business owner that we're pushed to the side.
Yeah. Yeah. So listen, now is the time to, we're doing our best, Corey, to innovate. We're doing our best to work with clients, as far as structuring something that's going to make sense for them. But, if I'm selling sales training, it's probably not going to go very well. But if I'm really digging into what their challenges are and, understanding what their pain is, that relates back to how sales training can impact this, it's just a different conversation. So again, back to a pain-based discussion. If we're selling our service as though it's a commodity, and Corey, I'm not suggesting that's what you guys are doing, but you can see the difference. Commodity-based sales approach, features and benefits versus a real pain-based discussion. And but listen, I also understand, and I'm not for 1 second suggesting that this is a normal environment either, Corey. Terry, you had a question?
No, actually, a little bit of addition to what you're saying there, and you guys are actually doing it. We're eventually going to come out of this, right? Nobody knows exactly when, but really staying engaged in your sales process is very important, and figuring out how you can bring value to your customer relationships in other ways. And alluding to the conversation that Eric had with a potential client or existing client last night is, bringing value to the business in other ways. Now, I don't know if you're trying to protect your business there, Eric, or not, or basically setting it up for another time down the road. But, the thing is, if you can bring value in other ways and expertise and be supportive, and sometimes it's a matter of sharing the pain. I know I've gone, one of the projects that I've been working on is delayed, and it's an advertising product for the cruise ship business. So essentially, that's pretty much on hold until June now, and I might be lost revenue for the year. But the first thing I did was, I think it was March 12th, and people were beginning to want to pull and that type of stuff. So I reached out to them, had conversations with them, and essentially was able to protect the business for a later date, you know, and assured them, you know, depending on and it may not happen this year, but assured them that when the time came, we're prepared to share the pain in terms of either reduce cost because it's not going to be a market as long, or whatever the case may be, or and the approach is now is let's just reconfirm your space for next year.
Mhm.
And you know, and we're probably going to lose some people along the way because you know, if you look at the restaurant business, for example, you know, they're saying that 1 in 10 restaurants are already closed. They're never going to open again already. So depending on how long this goes on, you know, there's probably going to be more casualties along the way, right?
No, Terry, listen, really good points for sure. I mean, and guys, I don't want to tell you for a second that we're not feeling it. We're feeling it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you know, you asked Mark and Curtis. I mean, we were ramping, right? February, March was going to be awesome. Q2 was going to be just fantastic and that sort of thing. Then kaboom, right? So we've had a bunch of deferrals. We haven't had any cancellations yet. We've had some deferrals. So we're feeling the pain too. So that's where we got together as a group and said, you know, what are we going to do here? And so this is what we're doing. We're trying to innovate. We're trying to give, you know, to help small businesses and medium-sized businesses. We're doing more with our current clients. We're just doing anything that we can to collectively help all of us kind of get through this shitstorm until things kind of settle down. And we firmly believe that it will. But you know what? We're all feeling pain, and that's for sure.
But you've created value by doing this. I mean,
Well,
a lot of value and a lot of goodwill.
We're trying.
Yeah. So when you come out the other side of this, you know, this type of stuff will pay off for you guys. And I'll mention something to you offline at some point in time on something that I'm working on. But it's, you know, it will come back to you guys big time.
Oh, listen, I appreciate that, Terry. So anyway, just in the, I knew we were going to have enough time. We never have enough time. Anyway, there is what's called the buyer-seller dance, right? There is this little dance that goes on. And I just want to kind of give you a sense of what we have seen in the past as far as a prospect's agenda. Okay, so let me start by saying prospects are not bad people, right? But they can be a pain sometimes to deal with because, you know, they rarely come out and say, oh, you know, Daryl, thank God you're here. You know, I've got a bucket of money. You know, I'm not looking at anybody else. I'm going to buy from you today. So what do you got? Right? I mean, Daryl, when was the last time that happened to you? And don't say yesterday or I'll personally punch you in the face.
Yeah. You know, Eric. You know.
They tend to mislead a little bit, right? They don't want to show their cards. They don't trust us. They don't, you know, they want to hold their cards. Maybe it's a negotiating tool. And then they're going to gather your information. Right? Now, I'm painting kind of a worst case scenario here, guys, but this is what I have seen all too often out there. They're going to gather up our stuff. Yeah, send me a quote. You're thinking, whew, this is awesome. They want a quote from me. This is great. This one's in the bag. I'm feeling good about this. And then you send them a quote. And, you know, this can sometimes turn into paid consulting, right? Where you send them the quote and they just kind of sit on it. Then they might mislead a little more and say, yeah, you know what, call us next week, right? And then we call them and we get voicemail and we send them an email and sometimes they'll just disappear. I don't know if this has happened. Maybe this hasn't happened to anybody on the call, but I can tell you it has happened to me in the past. Not all the time, obviously, but this is what can happen if we let our prospects control the sales process. So, you know, what we need to do here, from my experience and my perspective, We need to stop acting like a vendor, right? Acting like a vendor means that we're doing vendorish things. We're doing everything the same as our competitors are doing. And, you know, when we give a quote, well, let me ask you, let's go to Adam. Adam, what's a vendor-based relationship mean to you? How would you describe it in a word or a phrase? What comes to mind?
Tell them something when they need something.
Yeah,
Period.
when they need something, right? So they get some quotes, and what's the one criteria, Adam, when they look at 4 quotes and they all look kind of the same? How are they probably going to make their decision in a vendor-based relationship?
Who is a nickel cheaper?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a race to the bottom. Anybody can discount, anybody can sell on price.
Yeah.
Right? So if we stay in the vendor space, we're going to be in trouble. We need to be, remember we started out with sales as that slight edge business. This is it. We need to be an advisor. And my belief is that we can do things right off the bat, right at the beginning of the whole process, to be different, to be seen as different, to act and sound differently with our prospects. And this is our model that we use, right? This looks fairly simple, but I'll tell you, there's a bunch of stuff in here. We call it the Sandler Relationship Management System, and it's got a bunch of compartments in here, right? Everything from beginning the relationship to establishing rapport and setting mutual expectations right up front in every meeting, utilizing what we call the upfront contract. And then the questions begin. Pain, budget, and decision. Those are the qualification compartments, right? If we skip over that, we jump right to fulfillment. We call it fulfillment versus proposal for a whole bunch of reasons. And sometimes too many people can skip the pain, budget, and decision kind of conversations, jump right to quote, and then we wonder why we didn't get the business, right? So this is the process that we teach, the process that some of you on this call have been through already. And our belief is that this is sheet music. I know there's some musicians on the call here, and you know, everybody's going to play this differently, as we should. It's a very adaptable system. We've got people using this system for selling products. We've got people using it for selling consulting services. We've got people using it for selling huge, you know, $500,000 deals, and everybody adapts it differently to their world and their product and their service, their client base. So this is our approach to sales. We believe that this is a big differentiating factor when you're out there selling, because it's a very advisor-ish way to sell from my perspective. All right, I bought this business 8 years ago, and I'll tell you, I've trained hundreds and hundreds of people around this process, and we know it works. We practice what we preach. Mark and I use this every day, prospects and clients. All right, so I just wanted to kind of give you a sense of what it looks like. This is our, call it the Sales Mastery Program, and I just wanted to kind of give you a sense of what does this mean. So we call it Sales Mastery. This is either delivered in a public fashion with a number of different people from different industries, just like this, where we put you in breakout groups and you have discussions and we learn from each other, and you look at some content, and we practice different techniques. So it's a highly interactive process. And I'm just going to pick on somebody here, maybe somebody who has been involved in the process and how it's maybe helped them. Michael, you're not able to hit your unmute button there, are you?
I am. I figured out there's a
Oh, good.
accessibility button where you show all the buttons.
Michael's all the way up in Northern Ontario. So welcome, Michael. Nice to see you again.
Thanks. Sorry, what was the question specifically again?
Well, just, you've been through this for a couple of years. You went through our whole program and just look, I'm just looking for you to share with the group, if it's okay, a sentence or two as far as how it might have helped you in your career, Mike.
I guess what I can do is I can tell you a pre-Sandler Michael Bashford selling technique and a post-Sandler Michael Bashford selling technique.
Okay.
So basically, I sell furnaces for a living, and pre-Sandler, I always used to quote the cheapest furnace that we carry. I wanted to be the absolute best price. And I sold maybe 25 or 30% of the customers that I went to. Post-Sandler, I almost always sell the most expensive furnace we carry, and I win about 80 to 90% of my business.
Wow. That's awesome. I can remember a few light bulb moments for you. And thanks a lot for that, Michael. Really appreciate it. And guys, listen, I am not here to say this is the only way and, forget everything you've ever learned about selling because it's all wrong. Absolutely not. People will take bits of this and apply it to their current process and probably change their thinking a little bit. And I remember a light bulb moment for Mike. You might not remember this, Mike, but because Michael's a very interpersonal person, loves to talk, loves to share and that sort of thing. But, something as simple as learning some listening skills and some good questioning techniques, I think really kind of had Michael take a 180 on his approach for sales. So yeah, this is kind of what it looks like. We deliver this on a public basis. We also deliver it on a customized basis to teams if there's a critical mass that makes sense, and we can customize it for various teams. So just wanted to kind of give you a sense of what this program is. I haven't included one of our other programs, but it's a real valuable one. It's our leadership program, but this was really more of a sales centric discussion today. So that being said, I just want to open it up for, does anybody have any questions as far as clarification or more insights as to some of the challenges that you're hoping to get through? Was this at all helpful for you just as we begin to wrap up? Anybody have any questions that they want to ask? And just looking at
any tips for, so a lot of us, our business style has drastically changed. I used to go door to door, knocking on doors and visiting people and trying to drum up stuff like that. Any tips or tricks that you've heard from trying to cold call and get new business in a COVID world?
Yeah, actually, what I'm going to do is for just a few minutes, maybe hand it over to Curtis, because Curtis actually delivered a great session around virtual selling and the use of social media platforms that we're finding very helpful, Mike. So Curtis, would you mind speaking to that just for a minute?
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the question, Michael. And, it's great to see you guys all on here. But yeah, that's a question we've been dealing with probably over the last couple weeks, to be honest, Michael. And a lot of the best practices that are coming out in not only the sales mastery, the delivery sessions, but also through the webinars is really leveraging things like LinkedIn and really trying to bump up your personal brand on platforms like that, and really learning how to connect better with people. Just kind of like cold calling in a sense, but really having a good strategy is really important. So people are, thinking they can just hop on LinkedIn and just start, adding people to their network. It's going to backfire, right? So like any good salesperson or sales professional, it really comes down to strategy and really understanding the platform that you're going to need to use. We talked about it actually in one of our sales mastery sessions just this week. One of the fellows that's in that session, much like yourself, went door to door. He would go into 10 businesses a day downtown Halifax, and just that's how he was drumming up business. So basically, we talked yesterday about how he needed to change his behaviors and kind of his cookbook that we talk about at Sandler, and really making sure that there's a really solid strategy around intention with time, intention with the prospect, basically putting just a full-on plan together with who, what, and where, and why you're contacting certain people. So as far as best practices go for virtual selling, I mean, that's the foundational sort of work that we talk about in our sessions right now is, why are you using that specific platform? Whether it be like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, I don't know, all these different ones that are out there, but really zeroing in on one platform, understanding how the platform works inside and out, and basically how to leverage it, right? So door to door is kind of out of the mix right now. So yeah, strategy is really around learning the platform inside and out, for sure.
Can I add something?
Yep, sure, Terry.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I've been kind of engaged in some other forums and whatnot, and one of the things that is coming out of this is that COVID is the big disruptor, and it's going to change us for the long term, not just the short term. And so a lot of the tools like virtual selling, I think, are going to become more the norm rather than the exception. And using Zoom and that type of thing is going to be, it's there's a lot of fear out there that's got a kind of long term, and that's health related. So I think face to face is going to be not a dying thing. It's just going to be a change in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. And that was Terry.
Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree, Terry. And I mean, this is one of those moments that, people just really need to embrace technology.
Yep.
Right? The people that have been putting it off, this is really the time to step up, embrace it, learn how to use it, learn how to leverage it properly. Because it can be used improperly too, but there's ways to do it correctly. And I totally agree, Terry. This is the way that business might be run for the next 6 months. And I mean, we need to accept that. We need to accept it, and we need to figure out a strategy and a plan with how to approach it. Right?
Yeah. Everybody's meetings are like this right now, but the general consensus is, the change that's going to come out of this, it's going to be, it's not going to be marginal. It's going to be significant.
Yeah. So I truly believe it's an opportunity to innovate, add value, Terry, as you said, and we're going to come out of this way more productive than we went into it. And because it's forcing us to think differently, it's forcing us to be efficient and effective. And just one little tip before we wrap, because I got another meeting here. Back to Michael, one other tip, it's a great one that actually Curtis taught in one of the first sessions. And by the way, Mark put in the chat the address to our YouTube channel. So these 6 sessions are recorded, so you can go in there and look at them all. But on the mobile LinkedIn app, instead of typing a message, there's a microphone. You can actually hold it down and leave a voicemail for somebody on LinkedIn. And I'll tell you that the contact rate that you get back is fantastic from my experience. So anyway, listen, I just want to wrap up, say thanks a million, folks. Really appreciate you investing time with us. We're going to get back together and look at this as far as what we may want to continue going forward to help with the marketplace. But as far as our products and services are concerned, if you just want to have a conversation, whether you think we might be a fit, there's obviously no commitment to that whatsoever. And, we're able to get very creative as to how we can help clients with what they need at a budget that they can afford, if you're looking for information on that. So aside from that, I want to wish everybody a happy, safe, and healthy rest of the week. Enjoy your Easter weekend. To try a little downtime. That'll be nice. I can't wait. And again, reach out to us if we can help you at all. Thank you very much, everyone. Take care.
Get rid of you.